what lessons do you think you learned through the process that would help Providence do it better, or even the state, to be honest? Because I actually think what happened in Providence is a really decent model pointing to where the state should go. This is my personal opinion, not putting you on the spot. But what lessons did you learn from this that you think in 10 years or less you'd want to do better? Could we do?
Yeah, there's
Sure.
I have so the one thing that I think needs to happen is that the governor appoints the complete count committee, right? I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that needs to start sooner. And complete count committee is where we educate people about the census and
Right.
sort of get them to come out and take the census. Because the census, first page of the Constitution says the census is for ensuring equal
Right.
representation in government. And I understand that it's fraught with issues from the beginning, and we've rectified some of those over the history of the country.
Sure.
But
Like the Voting Rights Act and Supreme Court cases.
Yes, and 14th Amendment, all of
Yeah, all that stuff. Right, exactly. Right.
Right. So I understand that there is history there, and I understand that people say they're afraid of the census or they don't trust the census, but I think we have to get over that hurdle.
Yeah.
And I don't think that opinion holds a lot of weight. Like, well, my people don't take the census, or my people don't trust the census. Like, I understand that people not like me or not me don't trust the census. I feel badly that is the case. But if we want to make change and we want to have voices heard, then we really need to count all the people.
Right.
So we need to do a better job of educating the public about the census, and then we just need to keep the complete count committee going because it's really about redistricting.
Yeah.
And so I think that there was this sort of like job well done. It ended. We kept our congressional seat. We gained almost 40,000 people in the state. Like, there was a great, reason to celebrate.
Yeah.
But it should have kept going.
So we should have it right now. We should have a complete count committee doing some work in Rhode Island. Right, like the census just ended, the redistricting just ended. We should get right into it right now and start thinking about what are we going to do for the 10 years.
Yes. There's the educating the people piece,
Yeah.
and it's not just educating the people about the census, but it's why we have the census and redistricting and why it's important. And we just ended redistricting, or we're about to end redistricting, like get people ramped up for the next time. And then I think there's also the internal city and state issues that need to happen. So there's something called the LUCA program, which is a local update of census addresses.
Okay.
And this is going to be like terribly boring and bureaucratic.
That's okay. Hit me.
But Central Falls actually did this amazing job of increasing their population, right? And one of the ways they did that was they got a grant and they got iPads and they went and they found addresses that weren't on the city's master list of addresses.
Interesting.
And so that enabled the census to have a better sense of all of the addresses, which enabled the census to have a better sense of where all the people were.
Yep.
And I know that there are civil servants in the state and cities who are very fastidious about their LUCA updating, but I don't know that's the case everywhere. And that's it's probably a timing issue. It's probably a person power issue, right?
Sure.
I'm sure it's a money issue. Like, there's just not time and energy and effort to do this. But I think with the state growing and changing, I mean, we heard throughout the redistricting process, this building is going up here, this mill's being revamped here, and there's going to be people living. The next census, there's going to be people living where there aren't that people living right now.
North Main Street's going to be a completely different place. They put up giant apartments, and there's a whole plan for North Main Street. That's going to be totally different.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so what we need is to have some accounting of all the addresses that we have, and some really hard work, team effort to get in and go out. And I see this, I spent a lot of time even outside Providence, and you see massive apartment complexes and condo all over the place. So let's be sure that we're capturing all those addresses to capture all the people.
This actually makes me think, just 2 days ago, we just introduced a whole bunch of new housing bills to get housing built on so over the next 10 years, Rhode Island theoretically is going to be building a crap load of new affordable housing.
Yeah, exactly. When I worked at Housing Works, we worked with the Rhode Island Housing, and we had the future of housing in Rhode Island, I think it was called. And I remember we were we were saying that there was going to be this like large growth in households.
Yeah.
And that presentation, that report didn't get a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
And I think people just sort of, it seemed very idealistic, like, oh, there's going to be so much more need for housing, there's going to be so much more households, so much this.
Right.
I don't think people could really fathom that it was going to happen, and
Right.
now
It's
we're,
right in the middle.
you know, a decade later, we're actually seeing that it's going to happen.
Right.
And even me, like when I was sort of running we worked with a team out of Boston. They sort of gave us the code and the programming to do it, and we just sort of plugged in our data, and they worked with us to figure out sort of like, if you're going to estimate this much population growth or this much population growth, this is what you're having. And I just remember looking at the numbers like, that's wild. I can't imagine that happening. But then, you know, we thought about it, we're like, okay, there's a lot of empty space on the buildings that we could build, and we really do need to build. It's really important to get like at least affordable units.
Absolutely.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So
that's really interesting to me in a lot of ways, because I think keeping the second House district in Rhode Island is really important as a business concept, economic growth, economics, right? So keeping that was really important for the next 10 years. And so what you're talking about is getting our complete count in shape so we can do that again in 10 years. Then if we really want to do that, we need to do that in such a way, because it's really important to having representation, and it could be important for our economic future. All these things could be really important. So we should really be thinking of this as an investment, not as a cost.
Yeah, and it's not something that we just sort of sit around the table and sort of have meetings and discuss how we're going to do. We just start knocking on doors.
Right. Get people out there with their iPads and start doing some work. Right?
Yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work. So you're right. It's an investment, and it's really a challenge. But I think that we need to put the state up to the challenge to do it. Yeah. Because it's you know, the LUCA committee did say, you know, this is about millions of dollars in federal dollars. It's $1 million or this. And that's right, but it's really about counting the people, and then it's about, you know, it's about representation of that and getting that. And
it's like really about democracy itself. It's very basic. You want to get big concept here, right? Capital D democracy, right? And the way we do it here.
And that's what I mean. Like, this is about getting people the right ballots of capital D democracy.
Right.